we now have Eva Kasinska. She is a mathematics teacher. Oh, I got a move. Mathematics teacher and coach for Math with Eva. And she's starting the presentation for Stop Exam Time Stress. Extremely powerful and very helpful presentation. And just equally as wonderful is Fran Burke, and she's the CEO and emotional success coach for TEP Canada, and she'll tell you more about that. So, handing it over to Eva and Fran.
You parents, how you can help your teenager get organized for final exams. My name is Eva Kasinska. I am a math teacher with 25 years of classroom experience. Currently, I interact with teenagers who need math help. I tutor them. I provide study coaching advice. As exams approach, many people exhibit emotional associations even with the word examination. So what is it in your family? Is it anticipation, apprehension, perhaps relief that the end is near? There's definitely some stress associated with exams. What you and as parents can do to guide your student through this time is to explain to them that stress is normal. It is a part of what we experience in our regular routines. And exams are a fact of life. They don't end after high school. They don't end after their post-secondary education. We continue to have to face one form of an exam or another in our professional work as we upgrade our qualifications, for instance. So as parents, you need to guide your students into learning how to control their anxiety associated with exams. Fran, who will be speaking momentarily, will give you some more specific tips about controlling that anxiety. What I would like to talk about is getting prepared for exams by getting organized. So as a parent, ask your teenager, does your backpack look like this? Could your binder be in this state of disrepair? If that is the case, there's a fair bit of organizing that must be done before you can tackle productive exam preparation. So we need to ask our teenager, what is it that you learned in this course? Or perhaps what should have you learned in this course, depending on your effort level? And can you now benefit from your consistent effort, or are you hindered by your inconsistent effort throughout the course? How do you get organized once your backpack is cleared and your binder has been cleared? You need to set up a review folder or binder for each subject. And in that folder, you should organize in sequence all tests or other evaluations, marked work that has come back. This process is extremely valuable because the student can identify areas of strength and weakness, recall which units they did well in and which caused them difficulty the first time they saw them, because that will affect their review time. And time, that's the key word in exam preparation. You need to ask your teenager, what are your time management challenges? A lot of students find juggling review with ongoing learning in classes. Parents often say a month or 2 months before the exam is nearing, you should start reviewing. But meanwhile, there is still a lot of material left in the course and the teacher is still teaching new things to the student. So my tip is that for dealing with this problem is for the student to prepare a timeline working backwards. Once they know when the exam is set, plan review time from that date to the current time working backwards. Another time management challenge is allocating adequate review time for each unit. This ties in with the previous topic. You need to identify gaps and weak areas of knowledge. The units that caused you difficulty the first time you saw them are the ones you will need to review in depth. You may need to actually learn or relearn things. And so that will take longer than reviewing a unit where you did very well and you still remember those topics and skills. To manage the time issues, a student needs to create an exam study calendar, perhaps a printed out page from a calendar where they place all their exam dates and they allocate review time. They need to adhere to their exam study calendar, but also adjust it as time goes on, because they might find out that there's a unit that they needed to spend 2 days on, whereas they might have thought that it was going to be over in 1 hour. So planning is important. And also on this exam study calendar, it's important to allocate some time to complete a practice exam ahead of the real event. Most teachers provide their students with practice exams, but if you do not have access to that, Let's Get Together has a library of practice final exams for all Ontario high school courses, and I refer you to that website. It's a valuable resource. Parents need to encourage their teenagers as they prepare for their exams. So tell your teenager that success will follow if you ask for help. Teenagers need to make the most of their review classes, actually all classes, teachers would say, but review classes in particular. Listen, copy the key points, ask questions. And where better to ask questions than attending extra help with your teacher? Your teacher, the course teacher, the classroom teacher is the most valuable resource when preparing for a final exam. It's the teacher who prepares the exam. They know what will be on the exam. They know what they taught in this course. Interact with them one-on-one in the extra session times. While the teenager, your child, is studying for an exams, encourage them to minimize the distractions, the 3 F's: Facebook, their phone, and their friends. These are all important aspects of a teenager's life, but it's important to separate the private time from the study time. Teenagers often get impatient with themselves. They've reviewed a chapter, they think they have it all under control. They need to be reminded and encouraged that they need time for visible results to appear. The knowledge takes time to stick with you. When reviewing for a final exam, I recommend that you study in 2-hour blocks. For some students, even alternating subjects between those 2-hour blocks allows for more efficient work. What's key, however, is during the breaks, the students must go outside, get some fresh air, move around. Physical activity is so impactful to help our brains function efficiently. Also, teenagers, be mindful of what you eat. Pick smart snacks. As a parent, bring a plate of carrot sticks and cheese into the room where your teenager is studying. That will disappear in no time. And so when the teenager is free to roam the kitchen and find those cookies, they will be less hungry for junk food. So parents can prepare their teenager for exam day because it's all about being organized. Simple tips that can reduce the last-minute anxiety that a lot of teenagers feel. They walk into the exam with a plastic transparent bag full of pencils, erasers. As a math teacher, I cannot stress how important it is to come into the exam with a calculator that you know how to operate, not one where you're searching for the right buttons to press and time is ticking. It's good to keep a water bottle on your desk, not a cup of coffee, not a can of pop, but just take an occasional sip. Your body needs to feel comfortable during the exam for your mind to work efficiently. You should have a sweater. We write exams in either the cold of January or the heat of June, so you want to adjust that. Your body needs to be comfortable. You don't walk in hungry or too full. And of course, you run to the bathroom right before you sit down for the exam. It's important to remind your teenager how to be organized during the exam. To implement their personal stress reduction technique, which Fran will teach you shortly, you need to be positive and acknowledge your preparation. Think of all the time you put in and all the things you do remember. Don't rush, read the instructions, check your answers, go for the easy mark first, and keep your work legible. You want the teacher to find all your answers and make it easy for the teacher who will be marking you to appreciate your preparation. So what I recommend for parents as a discussion starter question is to ask your teenager, how can you tell that you are ready to write a final exam? Here's how you can guide them. You're ready when you've gotten organized. You have your binders, your past tests, your keynotes. You've created your exam study schedule, but adjusted it as you went through the review process. You've scheduled extra help, most likely with your classroom teacher, but maybe with friends who are in the same course and who you can work with efficiently and effectively. And you've certainly included physical activity and outdoor time during your review sessions. Thank you very much for listening to my segment, and I will ask Fran to continue from here on.
Hello everyone, it's Fran Burke speaking. I'm going to be talking about stress in a minute.
So, what about that small word with a big impact? Stress. How does stress impact your child's academic success and post-secondary opportunity? While this is a huge topic, I'm going to focus primarily on how stress impacts one at test and exam time. I'm going to talk about what it is, how it is experienced, give you 6 calming strategies, and also 4 questions you can start to talk with your child about his or her experience with stress at test or exam time. So what is the stress response? It's that response when the brain-body system goes into fight, flight, or freeze. It can be caused by fearful thoughts. When this happens, blood is flooded with the stress hormones of adrenaline and cortisol, and the blood flows to the large muscles of the arms and legs in preparation for fight or flight. At the same time, the brain goes into act-react mode, not into higher order thinking or functioning mode. So when this does happen, each individual will have their own unique response. Some can be physical, like nausea, butterflies, rapid heartbeat, cold hands and feet, the inability to sleep, can't see, can't hear. Some will have an emotional response, easy to cry, easy to get angry, easy to get frustrated. A behavioral response, feigning illness and other ways to escape. Procrastination, withdrawal. Others will have a mental response. They freeze and can't think, can't comprehend, can't focus, can't organize, can't remember. Any one or more of these may be experienced. And when they are experienced, there's of course the risk that the student will perform less than optimally on the test or exam and in the course overall. Also, there's a concern about the student's health and well-being. So we want to minimize the stress response as much as possible, or at least manage it when it does happen. So we need to be proactive and be thoughtful of when the stress response is going to happen. Is it before the test happens, like during the time one is preparing to study for the test? Is it happening at the test and exam or after the test and exam? What is the response unique to that individual? As uncomfortable as it may be, especially those physical responses, they are a part of that stress response and not to be ashamed of if that's at all possible. And lastly is to have the strategies to use to help manage the stress so that it doesn't become full-blown. So I'm going to share with you 6 easy to learn and easy to use natural ways to self-manage stress before, during, and after a test or an exam. Please note that these stress-reducing strategies are to be in addition to and not as a substitute for eating nutritious meals, getting adequate exercise, getting enough sleep, having excellent study and exam-taking skills, and having a supportive community that one can express their concerns to. As well, it's helpful to know that these strategies are powerful and can be cumulative in effect. With practice, you'll find out which ones to use at different times of the day and night. But before we start learning these strategies, let's do a mini trial, shall we? Let's see how they work right now. First, let's assess your stress level. What are you experiencing physically, emotionally, mentally? How do your behaviors demonstrate your stress levels? Then on a scale of 0 to 10, what is your level of stress? 0, there's no stress. 5, there's medium stress. And 10, I'm at my max in stress. Of course, the intention is to bring the level of stress down to as close to 0 as possible. So the first strategy, in stressful situations, we often know that we feel uncomfortable. We know that we don't like feeling the way we do when we're feeling stressed. And oftentimes we use all our mental energy to repress what we're experiencing and to try and stop it from happening. So I'd like you to take a step further and focus on what you want to experience instead. Focus on visualize and practicing feeling competent, confident, calm, and safe while preparing for the test or exam, while sitting and waiting and writing the test and exam, while waiting for the exam results. Get into that habit, and the more you do, the stronger you'll be able to feel competent, confident, safe, and calm. You're building neural pathways that way. The second strategy is to breathe deeply. Breathing deeply is an incredibly useful habit to develop for life because, and especially useful when we're in stressful times. We know that when we're stressed, our breathing becomes shallow. So what we want to do is to recognize when it becomes shallow and then start to engage the breath by inhaling deeply and engaging the abdomen, and then exhaling slowly until all the air has been released and the diaphragm has relaxed. By engaging the abdomen in our inhalation, we can bring more oxygen into the body and have a clearer mind for thinking and writing the exam or studying for the exam. When we exhale slowly and all the air has been released and the diaphragm has relaxed, we're actually able to access that part of the nervous system that's responsible for relaxation, growth, and healing. Another benefit of breathing deeply is that it can help with being in the now, with focus, with memory, and with comprehension. The third strategy is to use positive points. Positive points is a great way to allow the emotions to clear and allow for clarity of thought. Take a minute and think of the stressful situation while lightly holding the pads of the fingertips of both hands halfway between the hairline and your eyebrows, just above the center of your eye. Use enough pressure to pull taut any slackness of the skin and hold for up to 10 minutes. If you need to hold these points for any length of time, your arms will tire. So you might want to consider sitting down and asking someone to stand behind you and hold your positive points for you while you release this stress, or lie down and prop your elbows up on a pillow so that you can hold the positive points for as long as you need to. As the stress lessons create new positive ways of thinking and feeling, and with that positive visualization of feeling competent, calm, safe, and confident. Also know that positive points can be sometimes helpful during a test or an exam. Consider when you come to a question and it's asking for a date or a name and you know it, but it's not quite conscious. You can hold your positive points, and that name or date that's on the tip of your tongue may very well become clear so that you can answer the question correctly. The next strategy is to do hookups. Hookups are a great way to reduce stress almost anytime and anywhere. Stand or sit and cross your ankles. Cross your hands and clasp them at your heart center. Breathe deeply. Hold for a minimum of 30 seconds and up to 10 minutes. By doing hookups, you're helping the blood to flow back to the core of the body. Remember, the blood is flowed out to the large muscles of the arms and legs. You're helping the blood flow back to the core of the body to aid in digestion, higher level thinking, and in relaxation. The next strategy is to use basic level tapping from emotional freedom techniques, or EFT. Tapping has been scientifically shown to reduce the stress response and lower the stress hormone of cortisol in the body. To do tapping, use 2 to 3 fingers of one hand. Start at the top of the head and work downwards, tapping 5 to 7 times on each point on the one side of the body. Tap until the stress reduces. You can also use your fingers of both hands and tap on both sides of the body. Using this basic form of tapping can help bring calm to the system. Last but not least, sip water. Stay hydrated. This is a great habit to develop for life. It's important to know that water cannot be replaced by any other liquid and provide the same benefits to the body. Our nervous system is electrical in nature and operates best in a hydrated environment. And we know that stress depletes the water in our systems, so increasing your intake to replenish the water you automatically lose as a result of stress response is important. Also, it's important to know that caffeinated drinks like coffee, black tea, and soda pop in fact dehydrate the body. So it's important to replace dehydration with water. So we've finished the 6 strategies. Now let's have a post-trial. Assess your stress level now. Take a minute to assess how you feel physically, emotionally, mentally. What might you do differently as a result of having brought some calm to your system? On a scale of 0 to 10, where is your stress level now? Is it at 0 or as close to 0 as possible? That's our intention. So here's a recap. Visualize what you want. Breathe deeply. It's a great habit to develop for life. Use positive points. Use hookups. Use tapping. And keep sipping water throughout the day. Also, these strategies can be used almost anytime, anywhere. The challenge is to have the motivation and the recall to use them in times of stress. So it's important to practice them regularly so that you know them inside and out and have instant recall when it's time to use them in times of stress. So practice daily. 1 or more of these strategies, along with the test and exam preparation tips that Eva gave, can help build positive habits for managing the big and small stressors in life. They are life skills and can serve you for years to come. Here are the 4 starter questions. The first one, if you do experience stress at exam time, how do you know that's what you're experiencing? The second question, what happens physically, emotionally, mentally, and behaviorally? How does this affect your test or exam results? And last, how would you like to learn some things you can do so you can feel calm and confident at exam time? Thank you. For workshops and private sessions, contact me, Fran Burke, your No Stress with the Test Parent-Student Lifeline.
I want to thank Eva and Fran for the amazing information that they shared. One of the questions asked to us was, how do you motivate a student to study? And so what we might do is answer that one big question, and then we are quickly after that are going to go on to the next big important topic, which is fostering 21st century learning and technology. And we have David Porter from eCampus Ontario, who's ready with his presentations. So we're just going to ask this one question to Eva and Fran, and then we'll go from there. So how do we motivate students to study?
Obviously, that is a challenge that every teacher and every parent faces on a daily basis. Students experience a disconnect with their studies when they're disorganized in their approach. They've let things slip away from them to the point where joining the class, joining the discussion, or the study process overwhelms them. So whether it's the parent or the teacher who can guide the student back, one of the ways of encouraging a student to study is to get the student engaged in the class actively. Passive learning, sitting at the back of the classroom, whether it be a math room or a history class, is discouraging. Asking the student questions, small questions. If a student has not been doing well or is disconnected from the course, you cannot ask them the most challenging question that combines all the topics from the unit, but ask the teacher to call on the student with easy responses so the student feels connected to the material. I find that very important, and in my classes, I made sure that I called on each student daily, that I gave every student an opportunity to solve a question. This was math, of course. And then the student felt empowered by that process of learning. Passive learning is very discouraging when a student just listens to the lecture.
Thank you, Eva. My suggestions too are to take small steps, because sometimes when a student is overwhelmed, as Eva suggested, they go into that stress response and want to flee. There's no motivation there. If you take small steps and the student can see that they are being successful, that will be encouraging for them to want to take another step and another step. So use some of the stress reduction strategies that I shared, and also take small steps, because when they start to see themselves as being competent, they'll want to do more. Thank you.
Wow, that was a lot. Had I known that myself back in the day, that would still be the same outcome. But thank you so much, Eva and Fran, for everything. And if we have any more questions, please send them. We are in touch with Eva and Fran, and be happy to field the questions and then share it back with the community.